Hi everyone, Chris of the Polish Geek, and welcome to the movie review of Jojo's Bizarre Adventure Diamond is Unbreakable, the live action movie, because yes, I just got around to watch it. I mean, the movie came out a couple of years ago, but I never watched it because I never was really interested in that. I always felt that Jojo never would translate well into live action, but because I've had for a year already like this DVD set of all the Jojo parts in one actually, and it includes the live action movie. So I decided that why not, right before the release of Steel Ball Run pilot, why not just conclude this Jojo week with a review of a live action Diamond is Unbreakable movie, and I finally got around to watch it. But before we get to it, we all have to I have to remind you the most important information. We all know Steel Ball Run is upon us, like only tomorrow it's coming out actually. Like we're gonna be getting a 47-minute pilot tomorrow, and I'm so hyped. And I've been promising that if we get Jojo Fridays back, you'll be getting Jojo Saturdays or Sundays with me, but because it seems like it's going to be Jojo Thursdays instead, assuming it'll be weekly, which please be, but if it's going to be weekly, then yes, that means that you'll be getting Jojo Fridays with me instead, because if it is going to be weekly, then again it seems like for Steel Ball Run it's going to be Jojo Thursdays instead of Jojo Fridays, so that's why you'll have Jojo Fridays with me instead, or sometimes Saturdays or Sundays, because again I will be doing my best to review each individual episode. I might not always be able to do that because sometimes, like, you know how it goes, sometimes I might just like review 2 episodes, sometimes I might review 3, but I will try my best to very much be updating you guys on the anime. So yeah, expect Jojo Fridays, Saturdays or Sundays with me, probably generally Fridays, although I just again want you to know I want to be reviewing like every week, every single episode. I'll do my best to review as much as possible, but sometimes I'm busy with work and all, so I might not be able to review like every individual episode. But once it's all over, I whole damn will review whole Steel Ball Run from beginning to end, and even do another Jojo week once it's over. Again, likely referring to Steel Ball Run and my thoughts on it, because I already know I have so many strong thoughts on Steel Ball Run, but we're going off on a tangent. Let's get back to the actual purpose of this video, which once again is the review of the live action Diamond is Unbreakable. And what did I think about it? Well, I have to say, I think it was better than it had any right to be. Like, I expected that Jojo doesn't translate well into live action and it's gonna be cheesy, pretty bad, but I have to say, I think they did best they could in a way to translate Jojo into live action. It's still nowhere near as good as the anime, but that's to be expected. Once again, I think they clearly did the best they could with how to translate Jojo well into live action. And of all the parts, I actually think that Diamond is Unbreakable would probably be actually the best candidate to translate into live action. Yes, at some moments it's the most bizarre one with plenty of things happening, but paradoxically it's also the most grounded part, with characters being regular high school students living in the regular town of Morio in Japan. So if you remove some of the more bizarre parts, which this movie did, then I think that Diamond is Unbreakable is the best one to translate into live action. And as said, I ended up quite liking it. I especially like that they actually removed some of the more bizarre parts that would not translate well into live action, while still very much keeping it a Jojo story and very much making it pretty faithful to the original, while again removing the more bizarre parts that would not fit well into live action. And I like how actually they rearranged several of the scenes actually, that again would translate better into full-length live action feature. And I also really like how they weren't really trying their best to be explaining all the background information and all of the history of the Joesters and all, because again, it's pretty clear that the way the movie was actually directed and made is as if to people who are completely not familiar with Jojo, and I think that was a really smart decision. Sure, for fans this is all really fascinating stuff to know the backstory about the Joesters, their significance and all, but at the same time, the movie was not adapting whole Jojo's Bizarre Adventure, it was adapting simply Diamond is Unbreakable, and I like how they basically made the approach, let's adapt it for those who as well might have never seen Jojo and don't know what it is, and I think this was a really smart choice. Sure, for fans like me actually, it would be really interesting and fascinating Easter eggs and fascinating stuff to discuss the whole story of the Jokesters and all. But again, for people, it would basically be just a bunch of confusing, needless information. So I think that the fact that they removed plenty of backstory and all was again a very smart decision. A way it would translate into a standalone live-action feature, which once again is not adapting whole JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, just Diamond is Unbreakable. So I'm really also happy about that. And I think the casting is really fantastic. The actors are just incredible. Not only they are acting very well, but I think also that in general, the way they look, they were just really incredible. So yes, the casting for the most part is perfect. Except Jotaro, and we'll get to that soon. And I've seen somebody complaining that Koichi Hirose is just like too tall, but again, that's what happens when you're translating an animated project into live action. Like in the animated, Koichi Hirose being so short and kind of kiddie-like, that's actually part of his animation design, but he's technically supposed to be the same age as Josuke Higashikita, so yeah, it wouldn't translate that well into live action, so it makes perfect sense that in this live action movie he would be played by a guy that's pretty much the same height as Josuke, because once again, things that can work well for animation might not translate well to live action, but still I think that actual personality-wise and all, the actor who plays Koichi simply nails it in every way. Again, like most of the cast does. The only actor that I think was not the best pick is the one for Jotaro Kujo, because Jotaro Kujo is technically a part Japanese and part Westerner, but instead they picked a fully Japanese actor to play him. So, but once again, I guess it goes back to the point that this isn't adapting whole JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, just Diamond is Unbreakable, so now Jotaro being changed from a half Westerner and half Japanese to a full Japanese. I guess I can kind of go with that, because once again, this is mostly focusing on Diamond is Unbreakable alone. And I also do quite like the cinematography, and I do think it's pretty fitting with the movie. And the final thing I want to talk about, and that's probably my biggest issue, is the setting that the director picked to film. Because he filmed it in a city in Spain, which very much shows, because this is very much recognizably a European city. Like Morio, the fictional town, is technically a town that the author of Jojo Araki grew up, and it's very much based on Sendai actually. And yeah, when I go to Japan, I'm totally going to Sendai. Like for me, that's basically something not to be missed. But yes, Morio is technically based on Sendai, but instead the director of the movie chose to film it in a city in Spain, which I understand that was his vision, but I don't agree with that. I think he should just pick Sendai. That way to make it more authentic and more basically representative of the way of Araki's original vision, because once again, this is very recognizably a European city. Maybe I guess some alleyways they could still film in this Spain if that was really the director's vision, but when actually showing the whole city, I really think they should have picked Sendai instead. I mean, that was the city of Araki, and that's the city Morio is technically based on, but oh well, that was the director's vision, so I guess I can also go with that, even if I personally very much prefer if it was filmed in Sendai, which is the city that Morio is technically based on. But overall, I actually think that live action Diamond is Unbreakable is a lot better than I thought it would be. Then again, maybe because my expectations weren't particularly high, but whatever, I'm glad I finally watched it, and ultimately I think that they did the best they could with the way of how to translate JoJo into live action by removing some of the more bizarre parts while still very much keeping the story and characters very intact and very much maintaining the recognizable mark of JoJo, basically to remind you that this is still very much JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And also the casting is also phenomenal most of the time. So overall, I think that outside of the disagreeing with the location where it should be filmed, and I guess the casting for Jotaro, I think that live action Diamond is Unbreakable did the best it could with translating JoJo into live action. once again, you can make an argument that Jojo doesn't translate well into live action. I don't totally understand it, but once again, I think this adaptation did the best and most pragmatic thing it could have got done. So overall, this is my review of live action Diamond is Unbreakable. And thank you folks for checking out this video. Press the like button, please subscribe to this channel, and we'll see each other very soon in Jojo Friday, which will be the review of the pilot of Steel Ball Run again. Tomorrow, Thursday, first episode of Steel Ball Run finally is coming out, and then after tomorrow on Friday, you'll get a Jojo Friday with me, reviewing the pilot of Steel Ball Run. So, see you then, folks!